Gromlock guts splattered the walls as the apex predator tore into its whimpering body, blood spurting from the helpless creature's mangled corpse as it shrieked in agony. The apex predator was the most feared being in the known universe. Its shadow alone made entire civilizations soil themselves. But for Nathan Robinson, the lone human aboard the Andromedan science vessel Solara, it was just another Tuesday. As the massive apex predator dreadnought loomed on the view screen, dwarfing their puny ship, Commander Vortis trembled. His tentacles quivered as he clenched the command chair, ooze leaking from his pores. "By the gods, it's an apex predator warship," Vortis quavered. "We're all going to die." The apex predators, an ancient race of sadistic killers, had been butchering their way across the galaxy for eons. No one survived an encounter with them. Planets were stripped of all life, ships were vaporized, screams of the innocent echoed endlessly through the void. But Nathan had a plan. Where the Andromedans saw only doom, he saw possibility. A way out if he was quick enough, brutal enough. Failure meant excruciating death for all aboard. "Not today," Nathan growled, cracking his knuckles. "Let me handle this." Nathan raced through the corridors of the Solara, his mind spinning with possibilities. He burst into the engineering bay, startling the Andromedan chief engineer Zorax. "Zorax, I need your help. We have to create an EMP to disable that apex predator ship's energy beam," Nathan said, his words tumbling out in a rush. Zorax blinked his large bulbous eyes. "An EMP? How will that work?" "If we can generate a focused electromagnetic pulse, it should disrupt their beam long enough for us to escape. But I can't do it alone. I need your technical expertise." Zorax nodded, his antennae twitching with determination. "Let's get to work, Nathan." They huddled over the ship's schematics, poring through the scientific equipment on board. Nathan's innovative ideas meshed with Zorax's deep understanding of the Solara's systems. They worked feverishly, modifying power couplings and rewiring circuits. The language barrier and technological differences melted away as they focused on their shared goal. On the bridge, Vortis's tentacles tightened around the command chair as a chilling message from the apex predator ship filled the view screen. A grotesque, fanged face leered at them, drool dripping from its maw. "Surrender now and your deaths will be swift," the apex predator snarled. "Resist and we will harvest your crew for their genetic material. Your unique traits will make a fine addition to our biology." Vortis shuddered, his ooze turning a sickly grey. The apex predator's reputation for collecting genetic traits from their victims was well known and feared throughout the galaxy. Nathan, listening to the message from engineering, felt disgust twist in his gut. The apex predator's cruelty knew no bounds. His resolve hardened. He would not let his crewmates suffer such a fate. "Zorax, it's now or never," Nathan said, his jaw clenched. With a final twist of a power coupling, the modifications were complete. Nathan's finger hovered over the activation switch. "Here goes nothing," he muttered and pressed the button. A pulse of energy surged through the Solara, focused and amplified by their makeshift EMP device. On the view screen, the apex predator ship's energy beam flickered and died. "It worked," Vortis exclaimed. "Helm, get us out of here now!" The Solara leaped into hyperspace, the stars stretching into glowing lines as they narrowly escaped the apex predator ship's grasp. Cheers erupted on the bridge and in engineering. But their elation was short-lived. Warning klaxons blared as the ship shuddered and dropped out of hyperspace. "Report," Vortis barked. "The power core is damaged," Zorax said grimly, scanning the readouts. "The EMP overloaded our systems. We're in an uncharted star system." As the crew scrambled to assess the damage, a distress signal pinged on the communications array. It was faint, but the message was clear. An Andromedan colony on a nearby planet was under attack by the apex predators. Vortis hesitated, torn between his duty to his crew and the desperate plea of his fellow Andromedans. Nathan, his sense of justice aflame, stepped forward. "Commander Vortis, we can't abandon them," Nathan said, his voice steady. Humanity has a long history of standing up against oppression. Let me lead a rescue mission to the surface. We can help them." Vortis met Nathan's gaze, seeing the determination burning in the human's eyes. The weight of the decision hung heavy in the air between them. Vortis's tentacles twitched as he mulled over Nathan's proposal. The weight of his crew's safety pressed down on him like a black hole, but the distress call from his fellow Andromedans tugged at his conscience. With a heavy sigh, he nodded. "Very well, Nathan. I will assign a team to accompany you to the surface," Vortis said. "But I must insist that you take my son, Raxus, with you. He is young and inexperienced, but eager to prove himself. Keep him safe." Nathan met Raxus's eager gaze and saw a flicker of uncertainty behind the bravado. He recognized that look. He'd seen it in the eyes of countless rookie Marines back on Earth. "I'll watch out for him, Commander," Nathan promised. As the rescue team geared up, the Solara's sensors blared a warning. An Apex Predator landing craft had broken away from the main ship and was hurtling towards the colony. "Shit, we gotta move fast," Nathan barked. "Everyone to the shuttle now." The team raced through the corridors, their footsteps echoing off the metal walls. They piled into the shuttle, strapping themselves in as Nathan fired up the engines. The hangar doors slid open, revealing the inky void of space. Nathan punched the thrusters, and the shuttle rocketed out of the Solara, streaking towards the planet's surface. The Apex Predator landing craft loomed ahead, a menacing black shape against the green and blue globe. "Hang on!" Nathan yelled as he pushed the shuttle to its limits. They hit the atmosphere hard, the shuttle shaking and rattling as it carved a fiery path through the sky. Nathan gripped the controls, his knuckles white, as he guided the craft towards the colony. The scene that greeted them was one of utter devastation. Buildings lay in ruins, flames licking at the wreckage. Andromedans fled in terror, their tentacles flailing as they scrambled for cover. And in the midst of it all, the Apex Predators stalked, their armor glinting in the harsh sunlight. Nathan and his team leaped from the shuttle, weapons at the ready. The Apex Predators turned, their fanged maws twisting into cruel grins. "Take cover!" Nathan shouted as a hail of energy blasts sizzled through the air. The team scattered, diving behind rubble and destroyed vehicles. Nathan popped up, his rifle barking as he picked off an Apex Predator with a well-aimed shot to the head. The Andromedans followed his lead, their tentacles surprisingly deft as they wielded their weapons. Nathan barked orders, guiding them through the chaos of battle. But the Apex Predators were relentless, their superior strength and advanced weaponry pushing the team back. Nathan gritted his teeth, sweat pouring down his face as he fought to hold the line. A scream pierced the air, and Nathan whirled to see Raxus cornered by an Apex Predator warrior. The creature towered over the young Andromedan, its claws raised to strike. Nathan didn't hesitate. He charged forward, slamming into the Apex Predator with a roar. They tumbled to the ground, locked in a brutal hand-to-hand struggle. The Apex Predator was strong, its muscles rippling beneath its scaly hide. But Nathan was fueled by adrenaline and a fierce determination to protect his team. He drove his fist into the creature's jaw, felt bones crack beneath his knuckles. The Apex Predator reeled back, stunned by the human's ferocity. Nathan pressed his advantage, raining down blows until the creature lay still. Raxus stared at him, eyes wide with shock and gratitude. "Thank you," he whispered. Nathan hauled the young Andromedan to his feet. "We're not done yet," he said grimly. The battle raged on, the air thick with the stench of blood and smoke. Nathan and his team fought like demons, slowly pushing the Apex Predators back. In the midst of the chaos, they managed to evacuate dozens of Andromedan civilians to the waiting shuttle. But as they prepared to pull out, a chilling realization dawned on Nathan. The Apex Predators weren't just after genetic material. They were targeting the colony's advanced technology, seeking to strip it for their own twisted purposes. "We can't let them get their claws on that tech," Nathan growled. "We need a plan." His mind raced, scenarios and strategies flashing through his thoughts. And then, like a bolt of lightning, an idea struck him. A daring, desperate plan. One that could buy them the time they needed to complete the evacuation and keep the Andromedan technology out of apex predator hands. Nathan turned to his team, his eyes blazing with determination. "Listen up," he said. "Here's what we're gonna do." Nathan gathered the team around him, his eyes intense. "We need to lure the apex predators away from the colony. Give the evacuation more time. I have an idea, but it's risky." Raxus stepped forward. "I'm with you, Nathan. You saved my life. I owe you." Nathan nodded. "We'll sneak into the colony's communication center, send a fake distress signal, make them think there's a high-ranking Andromedan official here with valuable genetic material, bait them into chasing us." The team exchanged glances, tentacles twitching nervously, but they trusted Nathan's leadership. Nathan and Raxus crept through the war-torn streets, dodging apex predator patrols. The communication center loomed ahead, its antennas reaching for the sky. They slipped inside, Raxus's tentacles flying over the controls. "I've got access to the system. What should the message say?" Nathan thought for a moment. "This is Supreme Counselor Xyloth. My ship has crashed on the planet's surface. I am in possession of highly classified genetic research, requesting immediate extraction." Raxus nodded, his brow furrowed as he composed the message. With a final keystroke, he sent it hurtling into space. They didn't have to wait long. The ground shook as the apex predator ship descended, its hull glinting menacingly. "Time to run," Nathan said grimly. They burst from the communication center, sprinting for the network of tunnels that snaked beneath the colony. The apex predators gave chase, their roars echoing off the buildings. Nathan and Raxus plunged into the tunnels, their footsteps pounding against the metal grating. The apex predators were close behind, their claws scraping the walls. "Why are they so obsessed with genetic material?" Raxus panted as they ran. Nathan's jaw tightened. "They're collecting traits from different species, trying to enhance themselves, your people's intellect, telepathic abilities. You're a prime target." Raxus shuddered. The thought of his people being harvested was sickening. As they raced through the twisting tunnels, Nathan began to share stories of Earth, tales of wars and plagues, triumphs and tragedies. "Humans have been through a lot," he said between breaths, "but we always find a way. We adapt, we survive, no matter the odds." Raxus listened, his respect for the human growing with each word. Nathan was a beacon of hope, a symbol of defiance against the darkness of the apex predators. Their plan seemed to be working. The sounds of battle above faded as more apex predators joined the pursuit. The evacuation was proceeding unhindered. But their luck couldn't hold forever. They turned a corner and skidded to a halt, a dead end. The tunnel had collapsed, leaving only a wall of rubble. They spun around, but it was too late. The apex predators had caught up, their eyes glinting with cruel hunger. They advanced slowly, savoring their victory. Nathan and Raxus stood back to back, weapons raised. The air was thick with tension, broken only by the snarls of the apex predators. "It's been an honor fighting beside you, Raxus," Nathan said, his voice steady. Raxus's tentacles twitched, a gesture of respect. "The honor is mine, Nathan. Let's show them what humans and Andromedans can do." The apex predators lunged, claws outstretched. Nathan and Raxus opened fire, their weapons spitting hot plasma. The tunnel erupted into chaos, filled with the screams of the dying and the stench of burning flesh. They fought like cornered beasts, refusing to yield. Apex predators fell, but more took their place, a relentless tide of fangs and fury. Nathan's rifle clicked empty. He swung it like a club, smashing it into an apex predator's skull. Raxus's tentacles lashed out, wrapping around throats and snapping necks. But they were being overwhelmed. For every apex predator they killed, two more seemed to appear. Nathan's vision swam, his body battered and bloody. An apex predator loomed over him, its claws raised for the killing blow. Nathan stared into its eyes, defiant to the end. Suddenly a brilliant light filled the tunnel. The apex predators howled in pain, recoiling from the blinding glare. A figure emerged from the light, tall and proud. It was Vortis, flanked by a squad of Andromedan soldiers. "Get away from my son!" Vortis snarled, his tentacles crackling with psychic energy. The apex predators charged, but Vortis and his soldiers met them head-on. The tunnel became a whirlwind of combat, a desperate battle for survival. Nathan struggled to his feet, his body screaming in protest. He saw Raxus lying nearby, unmoving. He crawled to the young Andromedan's side, cradling his head. "Stay with me, kid," Nathan whispered. "We're gonna get out of this." Raxus's eyes flickered open. Did we do it? Did we save them? Nathan glanced up at the battle raging around them. Vortis and his soldiers were driving the apex predators back, their psychic powers tearing through the enemy ranks. "Yeah, kid, we did it. The evacuation, it worked. Your people are safe." Raxus smiled weakly. "Thank you, Nathan, for everything." Nathan held him close as the battle raged on, a human and an Andromedan united in their defiance of the apex predator threat. They had bought their people precious time. Now they could only hope it had been enough. The snarls and hisses of the apex predators echoed through the tunnel as they closed in, their claws scraping against the metal walls. Nathan and Raxus stood back to back, weapons raised, ready to make their final stand. Sweat poured down Nathan's face, mixing with the grime and blood from the battle. Raxus's tentacles twitched with a mixture of fear and determination. "Looks like this is it, kid," Nathan said, his voice strained but steady. "We gave 'em hell, didn't we?" Raxus nodded, his grip tightening on his weapon. "It's been an honor, Nathan. If we're going down, we're taking as many of these bastards with us as we can." The apex predators lunged forward, their fangs bared and claws outstretched. Nathan and Raxus opened fire, the tunnel filling with the deafening roar of energy weapons and the sizzle of plasma against flesh. The stench of burnt scales and ozone choked the air. But just as the apex predators seemed to overwhelm them, a sudden barrage of energy blasts erupted from behind the enemy lines. The apex predators howled in pain and surprise, their advance faltering as they were caught between two fronts. Nathan and Raxus watched in disbelief as a group of Andromedan soldiers charged into the fray, their tentacles crackling with psychic energy. At their head was none other than Vortis himself, his eyes blazing with determination. "Father!" Raxus cried out, his voice cracking with emotion. Vortis blasted an apex predator aside with a surge of telekinetic force, clearing a path to his son. "I couldn't let you face this alone," he said, his tentacles twitching with a mix of pride and worry. "Nathan's bravery showed me that we must stand together against this threat." Nathan grinned, feeling a surge of renewed hope. "Glad to have you with us, Commander. Let's show these bastards what happens when humans and Andromedans fight side by side." The battle raged on, the tunnel filled with the clash of claws, the sizzle of energy weapons and the war cries of humans and Andromedans alike. Nathan and Raxus fought alongside Vortis and his soldiers, their movements becoming a deadly dance of combat. Slowly but surely they began to turn the tide. Apex predators fell before their combined might, their bodies littering the tunnel floor. But victory came at a terrible price. A massive apex predator, its scales scarred and its eyes burning with malice, lunged at Raxus, its claws poised to tear the young Andromedan apart. Vortis, seeing his son's peril, threw himself between them, taking the full force of the blow. "Nice!" Raxus screamed as Vortis crumpled to the ground, blue blood pooling beneath him. Nathan dispatched the apex predator with a blast to the head and rushed to Vortis's side. Raxus cradled his father in his tentacles, tears streaming down his face. "Father, please, hold on," Raxus pleaded, his voice breaking. Vortis reached up, his tentacles trembling as he touched his son's face. "I'm proud of you, Raxus," he whispered, his voice weak. "And Nathan, thank you. You showed me the true meaning of courage and sacrifice." Nathan clasped Vortis's hand, his own eyes stinging with tears. It was an honor fighting beside you, Commander. Vortis's eyes drifted shut, his body going still. Raxus let out a wail of grief, clutching his father's lifeless form. Nathan placed a hand on the young Andromedan's shoulder, sharing in his sorrow. But there was no time to mourn. The apex predators were regrouping, preparing for another assault. Nathan helped Raxus to his feet, his eyes hard with determination. "We have to keep fighting," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "For your father, for your people, for everyone the apex predators have hurt. We can't let his sacrifice be in vain." Raxus nodded, wiping away his tears. "For my father," he said, his voice filled with resolve. Together, they rallied the remaining Andromedans and pushed forward, driving the apex predators back towards their landing craft. The fighting was fierce and bloody, each step hard-won. As they neared the colony's central research facility, the apex predators made a final desperate play. A group of them broke off from the main force, rushing towards the facility with single-minded determination. "They're going for the technology!" Raxus cried out. Nathan gritted his teeth. "Not on my watch." He led a charge towards the facility, Raxus and a handful of Andromedans at his side. They clashed with the apex predators just outside the entrance, energy weapons and claws flashing in a brutal melee. Suddenly, a deafening explosion rocked the ground. The apex predators had detonated a powerful explosive device, reducing the research facility to rubble and sending shockwaves through the surrounding area. Nathan felt a searing pain as shrapnel tore into his body, the force of the blast throwing him off his feet. His vision swam, darkness creeping at the edges. He could hear Raxus shouting his name, feel tentacles dragging him to safety. As consciousness faded, he caught a glimpse of the apex predator ship, rising into the sky, fleeing the planet. They had failed to capture the technology, but at what cost? The world went black. Nathan awoke to the gentle hum of the Solara's medical bay, his body aching and his mind foggy. Raxus was at his bedside, his tentacles bandaged, and his eyes heavy with grief. "We did it," Raxus said softly. "We drove them off, but the colony... so many lives lost." Nathan closed his eyes, the weight of their victory settling heavy on his heart. "Your father? He was a hero, they all were." Raxus nodded, his tentacles twitching. "The Andromedans, they're calling you a hero too. You saved so many of us." Nathan shook his head. "I'm no hero, just a soldier doing what needed to be done. And this fight, it's far from over. The apex predators, they won't stop. We have to be ready." Raxus's eyes hardened with determination. "We will be, together, humans and Andromedans, united against this threat." In the days that followed, as Nathan recovered from his injuries, the Andromedans honored him as a hero and a savior. But for Nathan, the true heroes were those who had fallen, those who had given their lives to protect others. He vowed to carry on their fight, to rally the species of the galaxy against the apex predator menace, and as he stood on the bridge of the Solara, Raxus at his side, he knew that this was only the beginning. The stars stretched out before them, a vast expanse full of dangers and possibilities. But with the strength of their newfound alliance, with the courage and sacrifice of those who had come before, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they would stand against the darkness. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.